If we look at the strategy component then, this is really about focusing your ESG efforts and actions. And ideally, you want to really be really mindful that you can't do everything. And so like they sometimes say, strategy is the art of deciding what not to do. And that really goes in this case. So it's really helpful to identify a couple, 1 to 3 focus areas for your ESG program, the implementation. You can't do everything at the same time, and you can't do everything really well if you're trying to do everything all at once. So it's really important to think about this on an annual basis. When you're setting strategy, think about what is the first few priorities that we really need to tackle. Out of your materiality assessment, you might have found that there are, let's say, half to a full dozen of material topics that you want to disclose on or have to disclose on. That is more on that reporting side. But you might find then that there is, 2 or 3 key topics where you really have an impact or can make an impact, or areas that are really top of the list internally for your company, but also externally for your stakeholders, that are really areas where you can have some impact and set some new policies and programs into place. So strategically, it's really important to kind of map that out. Another key component around setting strategy is establishing ESG governance. And again, really think about the key cornerstones here. It's not one person's responsibility. Ideally, you want to look at your board and have a system in place there. It could be a board committee, it could be a regular agenda item on the board agenda. And do your board directors have sufficient skills to think, talk, and provide the oversight on ESG and sustainability as required with where we are in the sustainability landscape now? If not, there's some excellent courses out there to upskill them. In terms of your executive, generally it helps to have one executive responsible or accountable for ESG to make sure there's a clear kind of link to the board. The board can look at that executive and ask for a report, but also for that executive to help drive that ESG working group, for instance, in the company. So at that company level there, you ideally want a cross-functional team there that really is driving your ESG efforts forward. So you want to look at, what can you put in place there? Strategically, you also want to really keep a close eye on the pathway to meet compliance requirements and or voluntary reporting choices that you make. So it's really important to be across that and really understand what's happening. And if you have that right governance system in place there, that really helps you to make sure you're not missing things. And finally, then at the strategy level, you also want to set goals and targets. They can then be linked to certain requirements around meeting compliance. They can also be around ESG goals and targets, GHG emission targets, for instance, to reduce those GHG emissions, but also consider board or executive KPIs to ensure that you meet those goals. There are more and more questions from investors or some frameworks as well that ask, have other KPIs that tie board and executive bonus or remuneration to meeting particular sustainability or ESG goals and targets. So there's a whole range of things to think through when you're looking at that strategy.